What's up, good people, and welcome back to YouTube from scratch. So I wanted to talk real quick about titles and topics. You know, titles and topics are one of the key things that will really help your channel grow, but it's also one of the hardest things to kind of come up with as a new channel because you're competing with a lot of larger channels on the platform for topics and titles that are, sometimes a bit oversaturated. So in this video, I wanted to talk about how to create YouTube topics for new channels and existing channels that may not be as large or have reached that point in their YouTube career. So one of the first things you want to do as a new channel or an existing channel with, not as many subscribers that, as a larger YouTube channel is really think about where you are in your niche and how you can bring something new to the niche that you're in, and really take a look at what is out there as far as titles and topics among the, do some searches and really kind of see what's out there around the things that you want to talk about. And, as you start to look at that, what you really want to do is figure out the language that people are using to search for those things. You can be using, plugins or software such as TubeBuddy and others that will really kind of help you narrow down what you can rank for with your specific channel by way of topics. And those platforms are really cool and platforms are really helpful. But what you really want to do, I think sometimes the missing key or the missing ingredient to using those platforms is that people don't think of searching for things the way that real people actually search for things. Prime example, you may be looking for, how to tie your shoelaces, and you may, put into TubeBuddy, 5 ways to tie my shoelaces in 3 hours. And yeah, you may rank really high for that, but how many people are actually typing that into the search criteria? And that's the thing, is like, really understanding that just because you're ranking within those metrics does not mean that actual real people will be searching in that fashion or will be searching those words in that order. So it's really, imperative that you really think about or get into the mind frame of how is somebody going to actually be searching, for what I'm looking for, or for what I'm trying to create a topic for or create a video around. What would I, as a person, what would I really type into the search box to look for something that I'm interested in? Will I say, how do I tie my shoelaces? Or will I say, what are the 5 ways that shoelaces are tied within an hour? Probably you would pick the first one because that's the way you would, actually search for it. But, not to say that those other pieces of the phrase can't be attached on to, your phrase to give you a higher ranking. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying be strategic about your placement of those things so that you can, use the phrases in the right way so that you can, broaden your chances of ranking in the search algorithm or in the YouTube algorithm in terms of search. So that's the first thing, really thinking about how people are actually saying things. Now, the second thing is really taking a look at your channel and the positioning of your channel in terms of how do I rank for these things. Sometimes your rankings, because they're going by number of views, you may just be a few views shy of ranking really well for something. So really paying attention to those views and the view count of, maybe my channel isn't getting, 20 to 100 views every time I release a video right now, but who's to say that won't happen in a month or so, or, however long it takes you to get there, who's to say that won't eventually happen? So you may be not using some titles that you can rank for if you just look into the numbers to see how closely you relate to those numbers or how close you can get to those marks. I've done this on other channels. I've done this on existing channels where I've had channels that had a larger audience and got more views, and I used TubeBuddy or tools like that to see my search rankings and come up with titles. And then I said, well, let me see how this title would stand up on one of my smaller channels, and use that title, and still was able to get views because the numbers weren't that far off. And it's just a matter of hey, is my channel within the scope of this? And yes, TubeBuddy or those programs may say you rank poor, that the smaller channel ranks poor for those things because it's, calculating the ratio of views, or it's calculating these metrics based on a ratio of time. But if you, as the content creator, can look at your channel and say, well, yes, I may only be getting 5 views on this channel per release of a video at this time, but with a little more effort and a little more work, that may increase to the number that the TubeBuddy or the other, what other software you're using, that may increase to that number in a short amount of time and allow me to rank for those specific titles or topics. So really taking a good look at that is very imperative. Now, the third thing is really for you to really be aware that these things are all speculative. And a lot of times there are going to be, titles and things that you can rank for that haven't been used widely yet. So they may not come up as something that has a huge search volume, but there may be a small enough niche, or there may be a large enough community out there that will be searching for those things in the future. And really thinking about that is one of the key things that will help you grow in the future as well. Thinking about what things can I serve up as topics right now that maybe aren't being widely searched for in the immediate, but maybe a larger search term in the future. I think that's one of the key ways that a lot of the early adopter channels have really carved out a great space for themselves in terms of niche, is because a lot of things that hadn't been searched for yet, or a lot of things that hadn't been really talked about yet, were talked about by those channels and really kind of built their own communities around those things, so that over time, as people do start to come to the platform and say, hey, I'm looking for this specific thing, the channels that are talking about those things are the early adopters, and they are blowing up in it. So I just want to say, keep that in mind when you are using, other softwares like TubeBuddy and other things like that. Keep that in mind, that there may be other searchable topics out there that, may not have a huge audience right now, but that you can still rank for, you can get in on the ground floor of and blow your channels up off of later. So, that's one of the key things to do. I hope this was helpful for someone, and we'll see you in the next one.